Hi, I'm Chuck at Inline Tube, and today we're going to show you how to install this upper booster kit for your 1967 to 70 C-10 disc brake conversion. With your old booster, bracket assembly, and master cylinder already removed, we can begin to install the new booster bracket. The booster bracket has a pivot on the bottom. It has the firewall side right here, where the rod comes out through the firewall, and the booster side. We are going to look at the firewall side first. It has 4 holes you can see here. Sometimes your firewall will have 2 studs, and sometimes it will have 4 studs. If you have 4 studs, you will bolt it on directly. If you have 2 studs, you will have to put these 2 holes on those studs and line up the bracket with the firewall so that you can drill the remaining 2 holes. This bracket comes with an eyelet that you want to remove because our booster over here already has an eyelet. To remove the eyelet, remove the cotter pin, push the pin out with the washer and remove the eyelet. We will not be using this. You will want to make certain that you save the cotter pin, the pin, and the washer for when you are ready to install the booster. Take the bracket and put it through the hole on the firewall. The hardest part is going to be getting the bolts to match up. Once all bolts are positioned correctly, tighten them into place so the bracket does not move. This is the clevis for your pedal. You do not want to hook this up yet because you want to hook up your booster to see where it is going to sit so you can adjust your pedal as needed. The booster comes with 2 pins, the short pin and the long pin. You need to double check your master cylinder to see which pin you want to use. If you have a master cylinder from our kit, that will be a deep bore and you will have to change the pin for the longer pin. If you have a shallow bore, you will use the short pin. This kit also features a piston adapter to convert it from a deep bore to a shallow bore hole. The distance between the pin on the booster and the master cylinder should be 1/16 of an inch. This can be set with your pedal adjustment later. For this, we will take a pair of pliers and remove the short pin and replace it with the longer pin. Now, turn the booster around and discard the plastic cover. Pull the rod back on the bracket so the linkage is on the firewall and out of the way. Attach the booster to the bracket and lightly thread 1 nut on the top corner and the bottom corner. This will allow us to pull the booster back out enough so that you have room for the linkage assembly. Align your eyelet with the bracket, then insert the pin all the way through. Attach your washer to the end of the pin, followed by the cotter pin. Make sure you spread the cotter pin to secure everything. Now slide the booster back against the bracket and thread the other 2 nuts and tighten everything down. Next, we are going to install the master cylinder. Don't forget to bench bleed your master cylinder. This is mandatory for a good brake pedal and is not covered in this video. Now, we are going to remove the 2 nuts from the front of the booster and attach the master cylinder to the booster. Secure the master cylinder in place by threading the driver's side nut only. We are not going to put the passenger side nut on yet because we're going to show you how to assemble the proportioning valve and bracket. With your proportioning valve and bracket in hand, notice that this side is going to fit on the booster side on the passenger side stud. Grab your proportioning valve and put it on just like this, with the rear port or largest port facing the front of the vehicle and laying on its side with the brake light switch pointing towards the driver's fender. Finger tighten the nuts and bolts to the proportioning valve and bracket. Leave everything loose and able to move so you can properly seat your lines into the valve. Take the 1/4 inch line and put that on. Now take our 3/16 line and put that on. Take the whole assembly and attach it to the master cylinder. Thread the passenger side nut to the master cylinder, leaving it loose so that you have room to make adjustments. You will only be using the driver's side ports, so you will want to take the plug out of the master cylinder and then use the provided inverted flare plugs. Be sure to seat these plugs tightly with a wrench. Lift your assembly directly under the master cylinder and put the line in. Thread the fitting until it is finger tight and repeat for the other line. At this point, you will want to seat your lines using a line wrench. For instructions on how to properly seat a brake line, check out our video, How to Seat a Brake Line. You can now tighten the bracket to the master cylinder and the 2 bolts holding the valve onto the bracket. To get your pedal adjusted correctly, you can loosen or tighten the jam nut and move your clevis in or out. Once you have the clevis where you need it, you can put your jam nut back so the clevis can't move anymore. You also have another adjustment here in case you need a little bit more. This is an example of the line setup for part number SCTB67D4, 1967-70 C-10 Shortbed. The first line that we install is the valve to crossover. This line is 1/4 inch and has a large blue 9/16/18 fitting that will attach to the front or the largest port on the valve. This line will connect to the 1/4 inch front to rear crossover using a female-female 7/16/24 union. The front to rear crossover will also connect using a female-female 7/16/24 union to the long 1/4 inch front to rear line that feeds the rear brakes. The next line to connect will be the valve to front T 3/16 line. This line will connect to the port on the passenger side of the proportioning valve. The small port on the driver's side will use the provided plug. The left front line will connect from the driver's side of the T to the left front flex hose at the hose bracket. This is the smallest 3/16 line in the kit. Next will be the front 3/16 crossover, which will connect to the bottom of the T as shown. This line will connect to the right front flex hose at the hose bracket. The final step will be connecting the rear axle lines from the wheel cylinders to the rear drop hose at the T. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns on your 67-70 C10, contact us at inlinetube.com via the chat.